The next things, well, after the title policy does their work to prepare for the closing, we actually have to schedule the closing. And then we actually schedule the final walkthrough and get the utilities and everything changed over. This process we try to streamline as much as possible so that if there is, again, two people on the offer to purchase, we really need to have both people present. We get that question a lot. Well, I'm only going to be present because my wife or my husband has to work, so I'm the only one who can drive up. Well, we really need to have both people there that are going to be on the offer to that were on the offer to purchase and are on the title policy, because both have to sign. So it's really important that everybody be present, or we figure out in advance if we're going to do a power of attorney or some other sort of legal way to get that signature on the documents. But we really do need to have all parties taking title present at closing. And so we start to schedule this about 3 or 4 weeks out, just so that we make sure we have enough time. If we're going to send documents to you by mail because nobody's going to come, then we have to send everything by mail, and we usually need about a week and a half to do that if nobody's going to be present, to make sure we can get all the documents back on time. And it's okay if we do it that way. It's just that we need to know in advance so that we can make sure everything shows up at the title company by the day of closing. We also like to do a final walkthrough. And my biggest fear when I have buyers who say they can't be present at closing is that, what if something changed in that property between the last time you were there, which might have been at the inspection, and the day of closing? And if something did change in that property, you don't necessarily want to take over ownership until you've sort of had your last right to review everything. I think the state of Wisconsin offer calls that within 3 days to closing, every buyer in the state of Wisconsin has the right to do a final walkthrough. My comfort zone is the day of closing. So in my world, the perfect closing happens where we do the final walkthrough at 8 or 9 in the morning, and then we go to the closing table directly after. So we're really minimizing the amount of time where something bad could have happened to that property. I especially worry about this in the wintertime. I just had a transaction about 2 weeks ago where they did the final walkthrough, and when they walked in the house, the ceiling had partially collapsed because there was so much snow on the roof that the roof came in. Had they not been present for that closing, and had we just closed by mail, they would have came up after closing to a big mess, and that's really what we want to avoid at all costs. We want to make sure you have your right as a buyer to see that property right before you let go of all those dollars to pay for the property. So to us, it's a pretty big deal. We've even sometimes done video walkthroughs if necessary, but that's really not even my preferred way of doing it. I really like somebody from the buying side to be present so you can make sure you're seeing the property before you release those funds. We also talk a lot about utilities, changing over utilities. We do what we call our 10 days to close, which is a bunch of reminders for you as the buyer to make sure you have to get utilities transferred into your name. You got to make sure you have your homeowner's insurance lined up. You want to make sure that if it's a winter time, you've got somebody that can plow the snow for you if you happen to come up and we get 10 inches of snow on the day of closing. So all of those things we usually like to make sure you have prepared for you on the day of closing so that there's, again, no surprises. Our goal for you is smooth, pain-free, and no surprises throughout the entire process. And then once we schedule the final walkthrough and we schedule the closing, we all go to the closing table together. That's really our last step. And we get to sit down. A lot of times you're actually across the table from the seller, so it really gives you an opportunity, if you have any last-minute questions, to ask them about the property. You can ask them at that time, and then we sign the documents together, and you own a house in northern Wisconsin. It doesn't take that long. The loan process, if you're financing, takes probably about 45 minutes, but the actual real estate portion is really about 10 to 15 minutes. But it also is a great time, again, for you to answer any questions from that seller if you have them. So that's a pretty quick and brief way of how the home buying process is supposed to work. But again, we'd love to sit down with you and go through this one-on-one so that you've got all the best intel as it's happening, because the forms do change and the process does change a little bit here and there. But again, we try to make it as fun and pain-free for you as possible. So give us a call and let us know if we can help guide you through the process and help you get started on the dream of home ownership in northern Wisconsin. Have a great day.